Don picked up a new hobby while they were on vacation. You know, you've heard of people who their goal is to visit every state in the union, you know, or thing. His goal is to visit every emergency room in the country. They were on vacation. He ended up in 3 emergency rooms while on vacations. Are any of them worth having, or? Oh, are any of the emergency rooms worth visiting? I like going to Christ because I've been there so much. They know me by name. You know, the doctor comes in and says, "Oh, you've gained weight since you were here last time," or "You've lost weight," or, um, yeah, never a good thing, but at least it was there when you needed them. So, hmm, I will tell this on me. Most of you know my pacemaker has been waiting for it to click. Friday morning early, they call me and say it officially clicked this morning. So it's like, okay, I'm on my way down to a funeral down in Richmond. And so I get down there, and right in the middle of the funeral, my phone's on silent, so I don't hear anything. And I noticed later I had 4 or 5 calls from the hospital trying to get a hold of me. They left 2 or 3 voice messages. When they couldn't get me, Kathy is my backup, so they started calling her to get a hold of me. She wasn't available, so she didn't answer her phone. So my daughter was number 3 on the list. So they're calling my daughter, and she's texting someone at the funeral to get a hold of me to, you know, and when I called, they said, "Can you be here Tuesday morning to get that replaced?" I said, "No, I already got an appointment Tuesday morning." So, they were wanting to get me in there. So that is scheduled for not this week, next Sunday is the 16th, it's the 18th. Because Bill's going to be out of town today and next Sunday. So, you know, I didn't have anyone to teach Sunday school, so I said, you know, that's the earliest I can be there. And they said, okay, well, you know, it's your life. If you, no, they didn't say that, but I will be getting that done Tuesday, a week from now. Getting a brand new pacemaker, good for 6 to 8 years. So, yeah. Anyway, still looking at the parables. We looked last time at the parable of the talents. The master, the guy that was the head honcho, he had a bunch of servants, but he particularly singled out 3. To one servant, he gave 5 talents. To another servant, he gave 2 talents. To the third servant, he gave 1 talent. And then he left, and while he was gone, their orders were to be faithful in what you've got. Be faithful. So he comes back, the guy with 5 doubled it, had 10. The guy with 2 doubled it, had 4. The guy with 1 was afraid he would lose it, and so he buried it so that it wouldn't get lost. And when the king came to him, he rebuked him, took away the 1 that he had, and cast him completely out. That was the basic parable itself. Now, we said that the chapter 25, verse 1, he's talking about the kingdom of heaven. So this is what he is describing, there's several parables in here. He is describing different aspects of the kingdom of heaven. The first one we saw with the 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish, is that watch, be ready. You don't know when he's coming. Be ready at all times, because he could come at any minute. And if you're not ready, the foolish virgins were not invited to the marriage itself. They were not invited into the marriage supper. They were virgins, which there's a big debate whether they were saved or lost. But they were virgins. They did hear the call, but they were not allowed to be part of the bride or even of the bridal party. I like weddings as long as I'm not the one officiating. We had a young lady in Texas that I think she would go down as the worst, hardest wedding I ever performed. She was determined everything about her wedding was going to be perfect. Well, you know what happens when that happens. She was on my case. No. I want a dot on my wedding invitation. And I want this and I want that. And finally I went to her mother and I said, we have to make a decision. You're going to kill her or do you want me to? It was just about to that point. But in this case, there were 5 wise virgins. They had the extra oil. They went in, they were part of the wedding. And then the 5 foolish who heard the call got up to go in, but they didn't have any oil. And so they were not allowed to get into the actual wedding. Now, in looking at the kingdom, there are people who believe that, and this blows my mind, that we are living in the millennial kingdom. Satan is bound, and we're living in the millennial kingdom. If Satan's bound, I sure would hate to be around when he gets out, if he is bound now. This parable teaches us that quite the opposite. In verse 13, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, watch, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. If we were already living in the kingdom right now, we wouldn't have to watch for the Son of Man because he would already be here. We wouldn't have to be watching. In verse 14, the kingdom is as a man traveling into a far country. So, if we're living in the kingdom, how is it that the king is in a foreign country and we're living here without a king over us? So obviously we're not living in the kingdom age. The king divided up his goods among his servants. Now, and I'm not going to get into all of this, but notice he divided his goods among his servants. I just had a question hit my brain. Let me think about it, and maybe we'll come back. He didn't leave his wealth to someone else's servant. Why? I'm a king. I've got servants. I've got lots and lots and lots of money. But I'm going to leave all of my possessions to my enemy, who's also a king over in another country. I'm going to put his servants in charge of my estate. Would that make any sense? No, he gives his money to his own servants. And so, again, God is not going to use the world to accomplish his plan and purpose. Now, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. I never cease to be amazed at churches that think that just they have to use all kinds of worldly attractions to get money. We're going to have bingo. And it'll only cost you $5 a card. But if, and that's how we're going to raise money is we're going to play bingo every Friday night. And the money will go to the church. Well, with my luck, I would lose everything I have. We're going to have a carnival. We're going to sell, hamburgers. We're going to sell beer. I guess I was ignorant, but a few years ago, a friend of mine was Catholic, and he got more beer at the Catholic festival than he did at the bar when he went to the bar. But, you buy it, and that's one of the ways they get their money, is having all of these festivals, all of these contests, all of these, you mentioned if someone dies, and, the more candles you light, the faster they get out of purgatory. Well, $1 a candle is like $29, $39. They make their money on all of this other side stuff. And when you tell them, well, how do y'all raise your money? Tithes and offerings. You can't survive like that. Well, we've done it for, how long was Brother Ginn here? He was here a long time. It's been over 50 years that we have survived, and we've never had a rummage sale. We've never had an auction. We've never played bingo for money. God doesn't need worldly ways, worldly attractions to accomplish his work and his will. So he only used his servants, not anyone else's servants. He divided up his goods and gave it to them to be faithful. Now, it rains on the just and the unjust. Lost people breathe the same air that we breathe. Lost people can eat the same types of food that we eat. Those are God's general blessings that he bestows on everyone. But when it comes to his possession, his work, he uses his servants. Now, then he goes away. The kingdom's not set up yet. He's getting ready. He's going away. He'll come back. And when he comes back, he will set up his kingdom. But for right now, he put them in charge. Be faithful. I'm going away. And when I come back, we'll take care of setting up the kingdom and all of those things. And so he leaves. Now, in verse 21, we find out, thou faithful servant. Why didn't he say, thou successful servant? What is success? What is success as a Christian or as in the world? What is success? Nobody's going to venture out. You smiled. Does that mean you know something? Or? Okay. There is, in fact, Brother Valantry's letter is on the back of that's about 1/4 of his letter. He's very, very long-winded. But the full letter was in your cubby. I don't know if you saw it to put on the bulletin board. But, one of the things he mentioned that they having to combat in Thailand is the prosperity gospel. You know, if you serve God, you'll be rich and never want for anything. He said that's a big problem over in Thailand. I hate to tell him that's a big problem here. You know, I've served God, I'm going to have all the money I need. Well, technically that's true. I do have all the money I need. I just don't need as much as I think I do sometimes. So this guy puts the emphasis on be faithful. Now, it's funny, the guy that had 2 and doubled it got the exact same thing, thou faithful servant. Well, he got 5, I only got 2, but you both were faithful. And so you both get the same reward. You know, thou shalt have, rulership over, 5 or 10 or whatever, not because you got 5 and you got 2, but because you were both faithful. It's kind of like tithing. And I know that's a sore subject with a lot of people. But you make $100,000 a week. Don't you wish? She gives 10%. What's 10% of 100,000? Do I need to get my calculator out? Thank you. 10,000. Now, he only makes 500 a week. So what's his 10%? 50, right? So which one gives more? Do what? They both gave the same. But she gave 10,000, he only gave 50. But they both gave 10%. Now, personally, we have never given just 10%. We have, since way before we got married, we've always given quite a bit more than 10%. But if you give 10,000, you give 50, and you both give 10%, in the sight of God, you're equal. You know, she's no more special because she gives 10,000, and you're no less special because you just give 50, because you're both faithful. And that's what God emphasizes, is faithfulness. So he tells them to be faithful to the best of their ability. Now, some people, I'll use my brother as an example. We were, I don't know how young we were. I was probably 5, maybe 6, maybe. And he was 4 years older than me. Mom raised chickens. Mom would kill the chickens, gut them, and then take the meat and cook it, and that's what we would eat. She would throw the guts away. You know, the guts are no good, so she would throw the guts away. My brother would take the guts, cut them up in pieces, take them down to the local store and sell them for fish bait. He could make money. He could make money out of fish guts. I could take a $20 gold coin and I'd be lucky to get $10 for it. He just had that knack. He could take chicken guts and turn it into money. Some people are just better. Some people are better at finances. Some people are better at a great idea. I saw a cartoon here a while back, and this guy was saying to his friend, he said, "Do you remember when I asked you about going, buying stock in a company that sells bottled water?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you remember when I talked to you about buying stock in a company that would have a phone that you could carry with you? He said, yeah. He said, do you know if I had not listened to you, I'd be a millionaire? People, I mean, who would have thought you'd be paying big money for a bottle of water? Somebody had to think far enough ahead to envision people paying for water. Me, if you had showed me a computer 40 years ago, I would not have invested because I thought it was a dumb idea. So it's not, oh, I got to keep up with him. No, it's to the best of your ability. You're not obligated to keep up with anyone else. You're obligated to be faithful to the best of your ability. In verse 26, the servant that did nothing was severely punished. He was called wicked and slothful, which is another word for lazy. And then I thought of what James said, to him that knoweth to do good. You know what the Bible says. You know what God says. You know what we ought to do. You know what to do, and you don't do it. It's sin. We think of sin as something you do. Oh, I got drunk. Oh, man, that was sin. I robbed a bank. Oh, that was sin. I simply ignored God's word. That is equally sin, just as much. Not doing what you know you should is just as bad as doing what you know you shouldn't. So he didn't do anything. He didn't go out and blow the money. He didn't go out and waste the money. He didn't go out and get drunk with the money. He just didn't do anything. And he was severely punished. Fear of failure. And I know we all have faced this at some time. What if I fail? I think if we're honest, we all have thought of that. You know, it's like, oh, I know I should do this, but what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? Fear of failure frequently will keep you from simply obeying. If God says do it, failure is on him, not you. If you do what God says and God fails, it's on him, not you. Your job is simply to do what God said and leave the results to him. There used to be a chorus back when I was young, and I'm not going to sing it. Don't anybody panic. But it went, God can do anything, anything, anything. God can do anything but fail. If God said do it, he is not going to fail. Fear is given by Satan to keep you from doing what God said do. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casteth out fear. And so it's not that I can't do what God said. It's that I'm scared that I might fail if I do what God said. But if God said it, when God said, Moses, head out across the Red Sea. Well, what if we drowned? You just head out. I'll take care of the sea. We want all the circumstances removed when God simply says, I want you to be faithful, I want you to be obedient, and I'll take care of the rest. I'll close with one. Years ago, when we were in Texas, there was a missionary, and I can't think of his name. There were two brothers that were both missionaries. Both of them were medical doctors, and I can't remember either one of their names. But he was in a third world country, and there was a rebellion or a revolt against Christians. He was captured. They took him back, the guerrillas took him back to camp to kill him because he was a foreign missionary. They lined them up, going through one by one, shooting them and killing them. They came to him, put the gun up to his head, pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. It jammed. They took it apart, unjammed it, got it clear, put it back together, put the gun up to his head, pulled the trigger, it jammed. They did that like 3 or 4 times. And finally they said, this guy's got a demon or something on his side, and they let him go. Now, how would you feel if you got a gun to your head and they pulled the trigger and you've already seen a bunch of other people shot? God said he's going to take care of me. How's he going to take care of me? He jammed the gun. Not just once, but 3 or 4 times. Same missionary was going through the jungle, and the guerrillas attacked him from the side. They attacked his Jeep with automatic weapons, grenade launchers. You know, they shot his Jeep full of holes. And as it turns out, it was like a Reagan or like a Trump thing. They were shooting. He turned his head to look over at his driver. They shot his glasses off of him. Never touched him, never harmed him. God told me to go. God took care of him under circumstances that, boy, I almost had his name. Dearmore, there you go. I think he and his brother both are dead now. But, God said go, and he went, and God, you're responsible to take care of me. You put me here. If you take me home, that's fine. But you put me here, and you're going to have to take care of me. And he did. All right. You are